So we've established that social media can distort reality for our first-time home buyers. Now let's talk solutions. Andrew, how do we get ahead of our first-time home buyer expectations?
How do we get ahead of it?
Yes.
It's a great question. I think just continually putting the message out there, um, you know, encouraging people to lean on credible resources to get information is very, very important. And if that's done through the channels of social media, I think that needs to be focused. There needs to be more focus on that from professionals like you and I. I think there needs to be a lot of focus on that stuff in order for people to.
Because really, social media can't pre-approve a buyer, let's say, for example, or paint a realistic reality. So, Michael, how many of these first-time home buyers do you find are properly prepared before they go out?
We usually hook them up or they've come prepared. Most of the people, and a lot of times it's with the assistance of their parents, and a lot of times they're getting money from their parents. Yeah, so in terms of what they can afford, they usually have a budget. You probably find the same thing. We want to spend this much money, and then they look around and then they squeeze a little bit more, and then maybe the parents throw in a little bit more, and then they get a really nice first-time buyer house.
Interesting stat on that. Very recently, from a poll, 67% of first-time home buyers receive help from parents in their first transaction. That's startling, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah, and 1 in 4 borrowers actually receive help from parents every month for that monthly payment on the mortgage.
Wow, interesting.
That's a new stat.
I'd say that's a self-esteem stealer.
So is it?
Well, yeah, sure. If you're an adult and you're living in your house and your parents have to pay, give you an allowance to afford where you're living.
Yeah. Well, is that a good solution? Would you accept that as a solution for yourself?
I've talked about it with my parents, and my dad has, I'm a single person, so I think a lot of home buyers are usually, 2-person per household. So that does make it better. So me being still in that single phase of my life, having my dad's help might be possible, but does bring down the self-esteem because I am working hard, and I would love to be able to do that purchase by myself. But if my dad can help me and help me get ahead now versus when they're gone, then it would be like my inheritance, basically.
I think could be some good to that as well. I think, yes, self-esteem. I think there could be some good if the family's on the same page and the child or the kid is going to pay back a certain amount of money as they get established. I think that's probably a little bit more on the rare side, but I do think it does exist where there is an agreement in place, and the kid does have a bright future, and there are good things. It's just they need to get their foot in the door to build some, their real estate, build some equity, start to pay down. You know what I mean? So I think there could be.
I get the help them with the down payment, but then I've never heard of that they actually help them each month. It sounds like somebody's living beyond their means.
Yeah.
Which gets back to entitlement and expectations and what we.
And I think there's other ways, like to have your parents not involved in a monthly payment is, okay, you buy a house, make the basement a rental property, make a room rented out to a student. There's tons of students in this area that you can rent out to. And if you have to make that sacrifice, you have to make that sacrifice that you're going to be sharing a house for a year or two until you can pay off some of your mortgage, and then maybe you look for a better job in that meantime, or you start a side business or something. There's many means, I think, nowadays to come up with some supplementary income.
Yeah, and you know what? Those are good solutions, but hard to find those on social media right now, right? Because most people aren't doing that, right?
Yeah, it's true. The other thing, just to throw a little extra layer. So with the high rate of divorce, somebody's parents are funding a house. They're giving the money up front and then they're paying so much a month, and then there's a problem in the relationship. Do the parents get stuck holding the bag?
I've seen it.
Yeah, we've seen that before as well, right? And again, that does kind of bleed into the entitlement side of things too, for sure. So Andrew, tell me, what's your hot take really on for a first-time home buyer now in terms of solution? What's the solution for them?
So if you really want to buy a house, figure out what your budget is, get pre-approved, and go to the market area that fits within your budget and find the best house that fits your needs and wants.
Okay, very good. Michael.
All of that, but I think the really important thing is to sift through agents until you find someone who's credible that you can trust, because we see people make mistakes or pay too much money and we feel badly for them. So I think having the right professional person is, with everything you're saying, that's a key ingredient too.
Right, thank you. Claudia, what about yourself?
I think the biggest thing that I see that lacks is people don't have any personal budgets happening, no Excel sheet, no spreadsheets. Once I started doing that, I was able to see where my money was going, how much I was spending, where my money it was pulling from to pay my bills, how much was in my TFSA, how much was in my bank account. And a lot of people lack that. I actually shared it with one of my friends who was buying a home with her husband and her daughter. And she actually thanked me because it allowed her to be able to see where her money was going. And I think a lot of people my age don't actually know. And there's many more areas where you can spend money on Amazon, or, you just go to the store, right? So it's very good to know where your money is coming so that you could properly prepare for the future of buying a house.
Absolutely. Sounds all very good. Michael, thank you for joining us. Andrew, thank you. Claudia, thank you so much. So I think we've discovered today that social media does play a role in first-time home buyers' decision making. But we've also come up with some really good solutions. At the end of the day, it's important for first-time home buyers to get properly educated, have a budget, and find people that they can trust to bring on their team. That's a real estate agent, that could be a mortgage broker, and so on and so forth, so that they can make educated decisions and be properly prepared ahead of their first purchase. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to our next episode.